Hello, family and friends. Welcome to episode 11 of Hair Raising Conversations. I'm Joseph Hare, the host and proprietor. Um, as I mentioned in my last video, I only do um, special features right now because I haven't gotten really consistent with my recording. And so today I thought I would jump on real quick and share my thoughts to address some concerns that, again, have seemed to arisen among quite a few people concerning this whole Elon Musk influence over the presidency and so forth. Um, Different people have shared different views. And today I thought I would talk about just share some thoughts on this idea that uh, Elon Musk is influencing or actually running the presidency before Donald Trump even takes office. Because of his influence over Donald Trump, a lot of individuals are saying and questioning, I don't know if they're joking or they're mocking or they could be actually speaking about something that might be worth considering since so much has happened in the executive branch since Donald Trump has introduced himself into the whole mix years ago. And so, right now, of course, he was just elected again to be president of the United States, and he has started choosing people to advise him and work in his cabinet and so forth. And one of the people that seems to be getting a lot of concern right now and attention is Elon Musk. They're saying that Elon is seeming to exercise quite a bit of influence and is making influences on not only the POTUS, incoming POTUS, Donald Trump, but also over Congress. And individuals are wondering how can this person who is quote unquote not even a natural born American just step in from out of nowhere. He's had no, absolutely zero influences or activity directly in the political realm of American democracy. But now it just seems like he stepped in there because of his wealth, and he's just running things before the existing presidency has even ended, and the new presidency takes office in mid-January. And so I thought I would just address or share some information that I hope will be informative for those of you who are thinking that Elon Musk can literally run the country in the guise of being some type of advisor for POTUS Trump and exercise direct influence and controls over Congress and all this as a man that doesn't even really have a real office in the government. He just has this presumed role who will be addressing efficiency in the government. But the concern is, can this man have direct influence over what the president does, or maybe make decisions that really the president should be making and dictating to the Congress what they should and shouldn't be doing as a person who just works as some type of special appointed person by Donald Trump. And so I thought I would get some information and just present it to all of you to give you something to think about concerning the idea of Donald Trump like giving way, like acquiescing to whatever Elon Musk may say, and just let the decisions that Donald Trump makes to actually be an echo of what Elon Musk is telling him to make, and even if it's something that is disparate for Americans. And so I just did a little bit of research and pulled some information together that I think might help a lot of us realize just what it is that Elon can or can't do, even though when we say the word can't or can, that's kind of iffy in the landscape that we've seen in dealing with Donald Trump. It just seemed like quite a bit of what happens in politics, it just kind of goes along with whatever he says or does. He seems to get away with quite a bit that has never been done before um, in the political realm of American politics. And so, but I wanted to share with you just real quick a quick slide that I put together. It addresses some information that I think and hope will be kind of easing a little bit of our minds about what can and can't be done by Elon Musk as a person who just serves as somewhat of a quasi advisor, I guess, versus him running the Congress and running the presidency. So here's some thoughts that I want to share with you. And I'm going to start off with sharing my screen here and just give you a little bit of, let's see what it is that I think you'd be good to think about. Okay, here is a thumbnail from the talk show where Anthony Scaramucci shares a discussion with his colleague, who I'll introduce in a second on the same presentation. They were talking about the idea that Elon Musk is actually running the presidency. And as you see in this little meme, um, I guess it was supposed to have been somewhat of a mockery, probably was, where he is showing this cartoon in the background where he says, Musk's reign begins, as though he's implying that Musk is the really one who's the president. And Trump is just kind of sitting in the background and letting Elon kind of run things. But I thought, well, the idea of Musk being the president did not quite seem to fit what it is that has been put in place to regulate a lot of what it is that anybody who's an advisor to the president can or can't do. And so we decided to talk about that today on my podcast 11. This is a real quick episode 11. The rest is politics. US is the name of the podcast that Anthony Scaramucci and his colleague, the KDK, the two of them have a very interesting podcast. I really enjoy tapping into every now and then. They get into some really deep, thoughtful discussions. There are times where he uses a lot of allegory. So sometimes I'm like, okay, did he mean what he said, or was he being funny? But sometimes what they say, it seems as though he's inferring something. So I do kind of pay attention to what he and Katie say on the podcast. And so they happen to have a podcast recently. I did put the link for the podcast along with all my other references that I'll make here. I have links for them in the description for this podcast. Also, I have them. I'm going to show them here in a second if you want to just see that I do have links for them for all the references I might make in this podcast. So Anthony Scaramucci and Haiti K were chatting about the idea of who is really exercising authority when it comes down to some of the decisions that are being made um, in the presidency. And what's interesting is when I did a little research to see if what Elon and Katie were saying was something that maybe other significant sources had addressed. The Columbus Dispatch also had inferred something similar. As you see here, this article was submitted by the Columbus Dispatch, and it asked the question or made the inference Elon Musk is our next president, not Trump. Musk is flexing the real power. I thought that was a interesting assertion from a very prominent publication there in Ohio. And then the thoughts that are being inferred, you see some of that discussed at how individuals who have wealth and money oftentimes are the ones that are pulling the strings. We may say, oh, who doesn't know that? But it's important for us to really think about what that really means. A lot of time we just say things as a colloquial idea or some type of jesting mockery, and then we just kind of walk away from it. But we don't really think about what we're saying. We're talking about someone pulling the strings and controlling what's being done by the president and the Congress. It would take a lot of influence to, when you think about the size of Congress, the number of people in the House and the number of people in the Senate, that those two make up Congress. There will be a lot of influence if you can dictate what every member is choosing to do when it comes down to political decisions. So in the book, The Wolves of K Street, I also put a link for that where you can take a look at this if you want to look this book up. As well as the link for Columbus Dispatch. They're all in the description. In the book in the Wolves of K Street, you get an interesting discussion about how, as it says here, the secret history of how big money took over big government. A lot of it is something to consider as people who think that we vote individuals into office who we expect to perform a certain task in a way that we would prefer as the individuals for whom this government is really supposed to be serving. It's like this for the people, by the people type of concept that we say we operate under in America. So the question is, okay, what really is running our country that we spend all this money and time attempting to put people in office and encourage them and expect for them to act in a certain way for our best interest? is it indeed true that they don't? And in the situation with Elon, is it possible for one man, if you think about a bunch of people, like you may infer in the book, The Wolves of K Street, how it could be a variety of individuals who are the money makers and the money controllers. But it's like, well, how did Elon then step in from quote unquote out of nowhere and just start escalating himself and just dictating things if you have all these other people who have money and may not agree with Elon, but because they have money and they have influence, how are they letting this one man, quote unquote, just take over as though he's the president? And so it was interesting if you want to really get some perspective on that, the Wolves of K Street, and then read the article on the Columbus Dispatch. The link I said is in the description to give you some ideas on how that could happen. But we do have an established the Congressional Research Service. The Congressional Research Service functions as an auxiliary of the Library of Congress. They help make sure that when behaviors of a person who is an advisor or someone who works in any degree of influence in American politics on the executive level are taking actions or engaging ideas or asserting certain actions. The Congressional Research Service has a battery of individuals who help make sure that what it is that's being done or said is congruent to what it is that's legal, what it is that's ethical, what it is that's historical in the habits and ways of American politics. So we can't just act as though Elon can just do whatever he wants without any kind of relegation, because the Congressional Research Service, their very purpose and their very job is to address and make sure that whether they're an advisor or a cabinet member or an elected office or an appointed office, they are in compliance with what it is that is acceptable within norms and laws and principles and practices that are taking place among any person that is functioning on the executive level and the legislative level. And so, Congressional Research Service indeed has the ability to take a look at whatever Trump may allow Elon to do and determine that, you know, what this person's doing is within or without acceptable parameters. So there is this body of influence who would monitor what it is that could be done by Elon Musk if the POTUS, when he comes in, Donald Trump actually begins to just kind of let him have his way, a one run roughshod through Congress and the executive, and just kind of dictate and tell people what to do. The Congressional Research Service could step in and begin to say, you know, what this person is doing based upon this, and this is outside of what is acceptable, and we need to draw some attention and rein this person in. And the Congressional Research Service has members that are serve in leadership who are selected by the Library of Congress. And so the Library of Congress kind of puts these people, the leaders in place, and then the leaders formulate their body who work to fulfill this service that the Congressional Research Service actually fulfills. And so you have this huge body of people that are working together, comprised of all sorts of expertise to make sure that if there's something happening through decision making or relegation or some type of action that an advisor or an appointed cabinet member or someone in the Congress or the president, if there's something that they're doing, the Congressional Research Service and its body steps in, as it shows here. It has a little discussion on what it is that they do. Since it's a public policy research institute of the United States Congress operating within the Library of Congress, it works primarily and directly for members of Congress and their committees and staff on a confidential, nonpartisan basis. The Congressional Research Service is sometimes known as the Congress think tank due to its broad mandate of providing research and analysis on all matters relevant for national policymaking. And so they provide a lot of the parameters and the measures, quality control kind of over what it is that is taking place in Congress and in the executive branch. So you have this relegated this body that kind of monitors them. And according to the Hill, here recently, this not too long ago, there was appointed a brand new director for this Congressional Research Service. Karen Donfried is now the executive director the director for that agency that operates through the appointment of the Library of Congress. And so I'm wanting you to get a sense that this is not just these are the resources that you'll see in the description for today's um, broadcast. So you don't have really this situation where Elon Musk is just allowed to just kind of step in and do whatever. It's like the little image that Anthony Scaramucci presented in his podcast where he had Elon in the driver's seat and the vice president on his passenger seat, and then he got Donald Trump in the back with this little kiddie wheel, like some little kids in the back playing like they're driving, pretending that he's driving in the back seat. So the assertion is Elon's basically taken over. The Congressional Research Service would not sit back and allow something like that to happen. They would provide the type of interventive influences over any individuals who may attempt to take over the government in that way. And it's almost like a quasi oligarchy if this person is basically trying to telling the executive, telling the legislative branch what to do, establishing principles and policies on their own and kind of running things just as a single person. Um, it wouldn't be allowed to happen, not that easily. And then if we really, as voters, got to the point where we begin to interpret that someone was doing, if we ever agreed that Elon is just exercising way too much influence based upon what we are seeing in public, because obviously there's a lot that goes on in the background that we don't see as the voters, but that's where the Congressional Research Service comes in. They are like an internal monitoring system to pay attention to all the stuff that is being done, all the decisions that are being made, all the actions that are being taken to make sure that they're being done in a way that will be acceptable and appropriate. And if they're not, they bring to question. So, but we as voters always have the ability to also exercise how we feel about what we're seeing or experiencing or hearing or concerns that we have as the people who vote in Congress, who vote in the president, who can say, listen, we don't like what's going on. We need you folks who represent us to take action. So if it got to the point where President Trump was allowing or taking actions that were just blatant violations and were not best for the country, the Congress can easily have that president impeached. And even though we may think that there's nothing that Donald Trump could ever do that would bring about some type of action like that based upon the history of efforts to impeach him for behaviors. But when you're talking about some of what it is that we're hearing Elon Musk saying and some of the things that he's trying to influence, and yes, he is trying to influence certain decisions. He was trying to cause the government to shut down, and he was trying to influence the decision to pass a temporary budget that would keep the government running. He wasn't openly supporting that. Now, sometimes people do things in public and then they'll be doing something different in private. So we imagine that he really was trying to discourage uh, the passing of a budget to keep the government going. And so something like that would create a major outcry if he indeed had said, you know what, I think that the budget shouldn't be passed. Therefore, Congress do not pass it. And if they had said, oh, okay, well, we won't because Elon Musk said we weren't going to do this, then we chose not to. And in a situation like that, it would create an outcry among the populace. And in a situation like that, if the populace did begin to express concerns or displeasures because something egregious had happened and it was attributable to a specific action by Elon Musk, and again, he's not even an appointed legislator. So if it had happened in that way at all, we as voters can easily say, listen, if you all don't take action, you Congress people, to correct this, then when it comes down time for us to vote you again, we'll vote you out. And if it got to the point where it was very egregious, the Congress could say, you know what, this is getting got a little out of control. We're going to tell you, Mr. Trump, either you change this or we're going to impeach you. And so if Congress all came together, the House and the Senate, then they can control what Trump does or have him removed through impeachment. And of course, the voters can tell Congress, if you don't do what it is that you know you should be doing to protect our best interests, we as voters can come together and vote them out. So always remember the ultimate power, if we ever get unified as a people, the voters, we can control what it is that Elon could or couldn't do indirectly, but we still have the ability to influence that through our voting, voting people out, voting people in. And then, of course, we have to always have the protest rights. And of course, knowing your legal rights is always something that you should keep yourself informed of. And this kind of goes back to not panicking, but preparing. Episode that I did a little while ago, episode 9, I believe it was. Always be prepared for what it is that you may need to do. And if you ever need legal information, be sure to take a look at the website that I have also in the description for Out of the Woods Agency. They provide you great resources to empower yourself with legal insurance to protect yourself so you can have access to legal services at any time that you need it for any issue. So I want to just jump on and give you guys an opportunity to just have something to think about. Um, Elon, he may think that he has a lot of power control, but at the end of the day, you as a voter have the power control. It's indirect, but it's still power. And it can work if we come together in a thoughtful, sensible, informed way and make sure that politicians understand that they work for us. So I just wanted to let you know or give you something to think about. Elon Musk being the president, not quite. And him having the ability to dictate whatever he wants, in whatever way he wants, not quite. So keep that in mind. Continue to pay attention to my episodes. We really appreciate that. I hope to get to the point here soon where I'll have more consistent content. But right now, as I'm getting started and getting myself up and going with this podcast, I'm going to be jumping on bringing features for each of you. So keep the pace, keep the faith, keep focused, stay positive, don't panic, always be prepared, prepare yourself, and big shout out to my alum here, Alabama A&M University. I was a student out there when I was in Alabama, so big ups to the Bulldogs. We got a Bulldog in the house over here, so that's one of the universities that I've attended, that I'm an alum of. So my alma mater, Alabama A&M University. All right, all of you have a great, safe holiday, and as always, again, don't panic.